This is Dirshu Mishnah Berurah as we continue and begin Simin Mem. Today we're going to learn Simin Mem, Sif Aleph, and Sif Beis. And today's share has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf as a schos shidduch for Rav Risha Bas Tavira. Mir Tashem, the learning the entire Chabura should bring Rav Risha Bas Tavira an incredible shidduch be'karov. And we begin Simin Mem with the words of the Machaber that teach us Din Eich Linog B'Kedushas Tefilin. We're going to learn now, after a lengthy few weeks and months learning how to create the tefillin, now we can finally appreciate how one should deal and accustom themselves with the kedusha, with the sanctity of tefillin. So says the Mechaber, also litlois tefillin being bebatim being beratzuos. You're not allowed to hang the tefillin both by the batim or by the ratzuos of a mutla tzloisim bekisan, but you're able to hang them while they are in the kisan, while they are in their bags. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Aleph, also let's loisan, also let lois ali yasin on al peg. Neshu derech bezayin, to take the tefillin and hang them by the ritzuos, to hang them by the batim on a simple little peg is degrading for the tefillin. Bein bebatim, says Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Beis, shabatim tliyas lamata, that the batim are hanging downward. Bein sharzuas tliyas lamata, whether the ritzuos are downward. Whichever way that they are hanging from a peg, it is a bezayin and it is inappropriate. It says Mishnah Berurah ba'akroi ba'alma, to do it for a moment. You hold the tefillin in your hand. And we see how far this halacha goes. Mishnah Berurah is saying that if you simply are holding the batim and the rituis are dangling downward, that would seemingly be included in this halacha. But says Mishnah Berurah, quoting the Magen Avraham, to do that momentarily, ein lahakbid, that you don't have to worry about. But if the tefillin are hanging, aser bechol gam, this is something, unfortunately, you do see this, as Mishnah Berurah is about to continue to explain. But to hold the tefillin by the ritzuos, that you should not do. But says Mishnah Berurah, again, now quoting the Taz, the Pri Megadim, ein bechlal zat, including this is not mashat tefillin shal rosh tali ba'avir. If the tefillin shal rosh are hanging in the air, umachzikim biyan, you hold them with your hand, beritzuos, with the ritzuos, masimam ala rosh. If you hold the ritzuos and then you put the tefillin shal rosh in your head, that is not including this halacha of dangling your tefillin. Kizeu zerich hanachasa, kizeu is a way to put them on, and that would not be a problem. There's some that put the tefillin shal rosh on a board while they wear it in order to avoid that it should never be dangling. But continue the Mechaber and Sivkot and Gimel, the Mishnah Berurah explains that when it's bekisan in their bags, it's allowed. A Sefer Torah, even when it's in a bag, you can never hang it. Even when it's in Aron Kodesh, that is not allowed. So of course, if one were to, for example, hang an Aron Kodesh, you first hang the Aron Kodesh box and then you put the Torah in it. But you never should have a situation in which the Torah is dangling even when it is inside an Aron Kodesh. And of course, this is something, actually let's continue before we make a comment. The case I just said, Chai Adam argues and says you should not do that. Unless there's something you should not have, and Aron Kodesh hanging in midair, says the Chai Adam. Usfarim, Kigain Sifrei Talmud Chadema, the Tefillin is similar to Tefillin. Kol Makaim Svarim, Oisedurei, Tefillah, Akavuim, Beluchais that are in the cubbies, in the bookcases, Shabam, Shal Shal, Shal Kesef, also let's lace them by, you cannot hang them. Shaluchais in Daimais Lekes, Lefishain Mechubarais, the Siddur Harein Kesidr Atz, it's like the Siddur themselves. Of course, one area in which we can take out this halacha, sometimes people have a small Sefer Torah and it's in a little carry case or in Kodesh. That would be a case potentially of called dangling the Sefer Torah. Of course, if it's all compact and packed properly and you're holding it with the proper respect, that would not be this issue. We turn over and we continue that the Mishnah Berurah continues. Mutter, one second. Yeah, continues Mishnah Berurah. Mutter lechtov psukim min ar utzloizim bezal basic nesef. You're allowed to write psukim on paper and hang them at the door of the basic neses. Noigin ha'ilam leisanais, and here perhaps snuck into the end of Seval, the Mishnah Berurah teaches us a very practical halacha that we're noig to fast. Kishanayfal tefillin miyadal aretz, if your tefillin fall or chmad al on the ground, below nartikan without their case. I think Shenafel Sefer Torah, Afilu ben Artikan of Sefer Torah falls even in their case. Ayin al Rabbi Shekosaf Afilu Tefillin ben Artikan Itim Brutal Estaki, that you don't have to fast. And of course, this is where it comes from, that if someone drops their tefillin, again, not in the case. If the tefillin is in their case, you don't have this halach. But if the tefillin are not in their case and their fall, that's where it comes from, they didn't fast. But we're seeing over here, the Mishnah Berurah quotes El Yerabah, that says, just give tzedakah. And many people, if they're not strong enough, will go with the opinion of El Yerabah and give tzedakah. The amount of tzedakah is never simple. One way of gauging is how much would you give to not have to fast on this day. That would show you at what level the fast is worth to you. We continue today's share with Sif Beis, in which the Machaber teaches us by Yishayish, by Tefillin, also L'shamish by Mitasai, a house that has tefillin inside of it. One is not allowed to have marital relations inside that house, until you remove them. And this is where the concept of a double covering comes from. You put the tefillin and kli inside a kli. But it cannot be a kli that is designated for it. So when your tefillin are inside their bag, since they're designated for it, that's all called one covering. Even 100 covers is considered one. But says the Ramav, neither are miyuchad, mutter, that would be allowed. So says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkat and Dalet Tefillin Bu'adin Chumashim Isidurei Tefillah Isishar Sfarim any sefer Bein Beksiva Ibitfos. It says Mishnah Berurah, this is not only if it's handwritten, even if it's printed. Any item, you're not allowed to have marital relations with that item in the room. Ha'kol yesh bem kedusha, they all have kedusha, bin and kli v'tay kli. They all need a double covering. V'afilu mein ksav mishita. I know what does that mean? Shein ksiva stam v'urak kasov ashuri. Like we have nowadays, all our svarim are not written in the same way they write Sifrei Torah. Still, says Mishnah Berurah, the same halacha applies. But now the Mishnah Berurah continues. Ukrichas hasefer, the binding, you don't make a mistake to think that the cover is considered a covering. The mikovat sefer, that's part of the sefer itself. Being an oid shnei ksuin. V'ayin bi'aradei of zimrei shayinala betaz sham sivkat and ches shekasav kol ha'meko v'kedusha svarim hanitfasim aser litin esadin. The tfas avikim ksiva, because the tfas printing is like writing. Ach mechuvas chavas yoyer. And this is very famous. Says the Chavas Yair, if you have nothing to cover, the Chavas Yair is mekel that you do not have to. And of course, it's not so complicated. Someone has a sefer on the night table, etc. You just put a pair of clothing or two on top of it, and that quickly becomes a double covering. Or you put it inside a drawer, and then you put a covering on top of the whole night table. But again, it is important to know there is a Chavas Yair, that B'shas Tzchak is mekel. But of course, that is not, and the Shartzian quotes El Yerabah feel similarly, but of course, that is not the Lechatchila. Continues Mishnah Berurah, or to use the bathroom, until you remove them, says Mishnah Berurah, to another room, or you put a mechitza in front of them, 10 tvachim tall, which makes it as if it's in a separate Rosh halachically. But says Mishnah Berurah, doesn't mean it has to actually be inside a keli. And that's what we spoke about a moment ago. To put 2 articles of clothing on top of it, that would function as 2 coverings. And exactly what Mishnah Berurah says, according to Magen Avraham, that if you put the talis or another covering on top of it, on the back of the tefillin, it's only on top of the item, and on the sides, mata. Maybe you would think it's not fully covered, it's sitting on a desk, and it's only on the top and the sides, it's not underneath. Says Mishnah Berurah, says Mishnah Berurah, let's say you have your tefillin in a bag, and then that's inside the talis bag. The talis bag is called as keli amyuchal ahem, that's miyuchal for evzarach oid kisi agab, and you need one more kiss on top of it. Unless you put the talis itself on top of the tefillin b'teich kiss, ta'az is shari. That talis ain't a keli, the talis is not a keli. And this is actually something that many people do, and they might not even realize they do it. As we've learned many times, you first want to put your tefillin in your bag, and then your talis on top of it. Why? So that you don't pass by and you first take out the talis. So if you have your tefillin in the bag, and then you put the talis on top of it, that will function as a covering for your tefillin. I didn't the same is true in Kizat Tefillin Mochober Lamala Kizat Gadol Haritzad Hashini Shal Kizat Gadol Ein Nikra Kila, and if it's all attached Is that called a covering? And you can flip it around. Here's another very important halacha. If the mezuzah is inside the room, everyone can look at their doorpost, and sometimes the mezuzah is inside internally, sometimes the mezuzah is externally. Of course, in a bedroom, it should be externally, but sometimes, whether it's because someone has a closet or a porch off the bedroom, often the mezuzah might be inside of it. Says Mishnah Berurah, you need a double covering. What does that mean? Two covers, one of the two covers cannot be miyuchad for it. So basically, every mezuzah has one covering being the case. You need to have a second covering. Let's say you have a glass case. Says Mishnah Berurah, even though you see the mezuzah, that's called one covering. And then, if a mezuzah will help to put one sudar, one handkerchief on top of the mezuzah. Now you don't see it. Says Mishnah Berurah, another glass covering does not help. Even though now it has two coverings. Because you can see the mezuzah, and we're dealing with an erva, and therefore the fact that you can see it is going to be an issue. So you have to ensure that the mezuzah itself is covered. Whether it's mezuzah, there's farim, for example, you wrap up the mezuzah with paper, mutter, that is allowed. That is your kavana. And that is actually what many people do. And often you tell the cipher, he's the one that wraps up your mezuzah inside the paper, or even if it's inside the clingy thingy, but that itself is a cover. You tell him you want it to be a covering, and then it functions as that. And we conclude today's year with Concise, which Mishnah Berurah quotes the din of the Mechaber, that the second covering cannot be miyuchad for it. Sheina sheni lav davka, says Mishnah Berurah. For adenim abanimi ain't a miyuchad. V'achitza miyuchad or sheshneim ain't a miyuchadim. Something has to be not miyuchad for the item. K'mo shekaza ba'aga v'ino aser kli v'tar kli rak. The only issue is going to be if they're both miyuchad for the item. As long as one is not miyuchad, that is enough. From here we learn some very important halachas. Anytime one would have a svarim in the bedroom, one would have tefillin in the bedroom, you have to ensure that its covering of the tefillin is not enough, the covering of the towels bag is not enough. Either you have to cover it with the towels itself, or the towel's bag could be one covering, and you have to put something else on top of it as a second covering. And we'll pick it up from Sif Gimel in the next year of Ziyata Dishmaya.